This video is intended to raise consciousness around sexual violence and its relationship to homelessness. In the video, women share their experiences about being homeless, and experts provide information about options available to women who've experienced sexual violence. If you start to feel triggered or unsafe while watching, please take care of yourself in whatever way is effective for you.
Every night in Portland, Oregon, at least 4,500 people are homeless. Many are women. They live under bridges or hidden in the bushes alongside freeway underpasses. They sleep on friends' or relatives' couches, in cars, warming shelters and transitional housing, or on the streets. Experts say most, if not all, of these women are survivors of sexual or domestic violence. For many, that's what caused their homelessness. The reality is, being homeless will almost always lead to more sexual violence.
Trauma happened between he and I, and I found myself with 2 drinks and driving down the road and a car accident, and don't know how I walked away from it and didn't kill anybody, and completely homeless, no vehicle to even sleep in at that point, which I had that at least before, so it was kind of some security, where now I didn't have anything. And didn't feel like I had any support or any help.
Half of all homeless women and children have become homeless while trying to escape abusive situations.
I became homeless a few years back. I was basically on the run from the law. I didn't want to be found, so I left home and continued to commit crimes to try to survive, living from hotel to hotel, living on the streets, sleeping in the bushes, just doing whatever I saw fit needed to be done in order to survive against me.
Homeless women are particularly vulnerable to sexual and physical assault at the hands of strangers, acquaintances, pimps, sex traffickers, and intimate partners on the street, in shelters, or in precarious housing situations.
I've slept in bushes over by churches. I've slept in parks. I've slept in kind of like camping areas, but over in an area where there weren't too many people, but I should not have been there, and numerous other places. I went into hotels and slept under their stairs and their stair landings, and hoped that nobody would come and kick me out. So just about anywhere.
A homeless woman may stay in a relationship with a person who abuses her physically or sexually because the risks associated with leaving seem worse than the abuse itself.
When I left my husband in 2008, I made a choice to leave my abuser. So when I came out here, I was homeless. 40 bucks in my pocket, staying under the bridge, and trying to get shelter. And my experience the first night I was here, it was scary, very scary. There's so many people.
On average, homeless women between 18 and 44 years old are up to 31 times more likely to die than women in the general population.
And then this lady came up to me, even during that day and a half, because I was trying to get into shelter, making phone calls. And back to that, this lady comes up to me, gives me a knife, and she says, you know what, just watch your back, because there's a lot of people, a lot of men that'll, that'll hurt you.
So I fitted in with other people that were out on the streets, which I thought at the time was safe, but I realized that wasn't so safe. I got involved in drugs, and so when you get involved with drugs, those kind of things come into play, staying in abandoned houses, and they take ownership of even abandoned houses. So there's certain things you got to do, and if you're not willing to do that, then you're subjected to rape and physical abuse and things like that.
Homeless women experience significantly greater psychological distress than women in public housing. The loss of a woman's home is a precipitating factor for higher levels of post-traumatic stress disorder.
I slept on MLK in Killingsworth next to the old mid-case and the disability office in the little cubby hole with a U-Haul blanket at times, and at times I sat up in the corner because I didn't want to be touched or kissed on. Just didn't want anybody putting their hands on me and saying, well, you got to do this to sleep here, and because they do that. You're liable to wake up without a blanket, your shoes gone, all that type of stuff, and you're already out there deprived. So when that happens, your self-esteem gets taken away. You feel like you're less than, you're not worthy of even being in that little corner which you call home. Most of the things that women have went through being homeless, I've been through. So I'm here to share my story.
For a definition of sexual violence, I would describe it as really including all forms of sexual assault, plus also sexual harassment or sexual threats, where there has not been an actual physical assault that's taken place, and yet the harassment is sexual in nature. It could also be through written words or by email, for example, where there haven't been specific acts, but it still includes sexual violence.
In the lives of homeless women, sexual violence can include anything from sexual assault to rape to sexual coercion. And by sexual coercion, I mean giving sex in exchange to get something else. So it might be giving sex in order to get a shower, a place to sleep, something to eat. Sexual violence might also include domestic violence in the lives of homeless women.
Over the course of a year, homeless women who panhandled or traded sexual favors for drugs or money were 3 times more likely to experience sexual assault and other forms of violence relative to their homeless peers who did not engage in sex trade.
I've heard about women basically selling their body even for a meal, or drugs too, because people want to numb the pain that they're feeling. That's the last thing you want to do is look around and face reality that this is my life, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going to be, nobody cares, I have nobody to reach out to or to talk to. When I was homeless, there was a man in my life at the time, a spouse, I had a partner. I didn't have to sell my body or do those things, but he essentially was my caretaker. So I experienced a lot of domestic violence during that time with him on the streets, and I had no other choice but to accept it and deal with it, because I had no idea how I would survive or make it without him. You know, it was too scary for me. It was too scary for me to walk away. It was too scary for me to even really face the facts. And at that point in time, I just accepted it. Like, this is my fate. This is my life. This is what it's going to be. You know, nothing is going to ever change for me.
When a victim is sexually assaulted, she oftentimes doesn't identify herself as a victim of rape or a victim of sexual assault because because the perpetrator is someone that she knows. And if in our minds we think perpetrators are strangers that are jumping out of the bushes, but in reality, the perpetrator is someone that I know and that I trusted, there's sort of a split, an incongruent thought that doesn't make sense to us. And so we might not identify as victims when actually we are.
We don't discuss what assault is. We don't discuss what rape is. So when women experience it, they often don't even have the words to express it, even if it didn't feel right on the inside. So that layer of silence exists.
The homeless women that we have worked with here in Portland, and I believe anywhere you would go, are extremely vulnerable on the streets. It's not to say that men are not vulnerable, but the work that we have done with women, homeless women in the facilities and Jean's Place, we have found that 100% of the women we work with have been sexually assaulted, either on the streets or as children.
Sadly, I've heard about too many situations of sexual violence happening to women that have come into Jean's Place and that we've had contact with. There have been situations of people that you hear that are immediately, that have just had something happen recently while they were sleeping on the streets, or they were with a partner or with someone that they knew, or family member, someone.
In one study, 13% of homeless women reported having been raped in the past 12 months, and half of these women were raped at least twice. In another study, 9% of homeless women reported at least one experience of sexual victimization in the last month.
There's the situation that we hear a lot about as someone gets more comfortable with us of talking about the violence that they faced as a child or early adult, as they were their family situation. There's the situations of domestic violence that we hear about. You know, someone having gone to stay with their sister and their sister's husband doing something. Someone having just gone, you know, they needed a place to stay and someone was said, you know, help me be a caregiver for me. Well, that, you know, doesn't just necessarily mean changing their, you know, doing their linens, cleaning their house. It turned into something else. There's the conditions of, you know, someone sleeping on the streets and being raped by someone while they were sleeping on the streets. There's someone who it was their, you know, someone that they knew or thought that they were friends with.
Believe me, there's a lot of people preying on you. You know, I went to the shelter, to the mission to go eat, and everybody knows you're not from here. So all these men all of a sudden, you know, hey girl, do you want to sleep over here? No, I'm good. Well, you can sleep over here, you know, you can cuddle over here. I'm not trying to do all that. It was like I felt like how can I say, like prey, and all these wolves are trying to get a bite. So that really scared me.
Yeah, there's really no safety involved. You're basically existing as prey, especially as a woman. You're so more of an easy target, you know, if you don't have people there to help protect you or help you defend yourself. And no, it's not a good feeling. You lose hope. You don't trust anyone. You just kind of a shell of a person trying to function in a world that it feels like doesn't care about you.
Women who are homeless or in transitional housing are more vulnerable to sexual assault because perpetrators use their vulnerability and the fact that they live on the streets or don't have secure housing and don't have safety in order to perpetrate against them. What we know about perpetrators of sexual assault is that they choose victims based on their vulnerability, their accessibility, and their lacking of credibility. Many women that are living on the streets don't just have one vulnerability, they have many vulnerabilities. And so from a perpetrator's perspective, in some ways they make the perfect victim because they're so vulnerable. I want homeless women or women in transitional housing that watch this film to know that there are resources out in our community that are available to help. I understand that there are not enough resources and that it's going to take an entire community to respond to homeless victims of sexual assault. Unfortunately, there's not enough people in our community who are trained on the specific issues of what is it like to be homeless. And so it might be your part as a homeless woman to educate service providers out there about what your needs are, about what it's like to live on the streets, about what choices you need, what options you need, so that you can get your life back on track after you've been sexually assaulted.
You have to reach out for help. You have to reach out and speak up. As hard as it is, there are people in the community and resources that are willing to help you, who won't look down on you, who will embrace you, who will help empower you, who believe in you and your abilities.
The Violence Against Women grant that Transition Projects and the Victim Rights Law Center were able to acquire allowed us the opportunity to create services that had never been offered before to women who have been victims of sexual assault while living on the streets. And through this grant, we have the opportunity to create services to help women move forward and hopefully get off the streets and face the issues that they have been confronted with for years.
Until you really know and find out that there are services out there available for you, like drug addiction, treatment centers, domestic violence, shelters for women, Salvation Army for women. See, I always thought that was just a man thing. I was like, they got more things for men than they do for women. So what do? We get out here and let people know what's available to us women. And that way, maybe we can get together and build something for women.
In one study of homeless women who have been victimized, most participants reported mental health problems ranging from suicide attempts and depression to alcohol or drug dependence and post-traumatic stress disorder.
There are reasons why it's hard to trust other people, and it feels very wrong to step in and trust someone. Typically, when women are assaulted, it's by people they know. And when homeless women are being assaulted, typically it's by people they went to for help in some way, that they went to help protect them. They went to help keep them safe on the street. They went to ask for a safe place to sleep. So when they go and ask for help out on the street and then receive the most violating type of assault, of course it's very hard to ask anyone else for help. Why would you not assume that everyone else has the potential of hurting you? So what I really want women to understand is, even though it feels very wrong to ask for help, because trauma occurs in relationship with another human being, healing has to occur in relationship with another human being. So whatever you can do to step out of that fear and connect with another person, you have to do it. Women heal from PTSD. Women heal from trauma. Women heal from sexual assault.
The legal system can be a confusing system for anybody, and if you find it difficult to navigate, you're not the only one. It's important, as you're accessing remedies through the legal system, to ask for help and to ask for explanations about your different options, about the difference between the criminal justice system and the civil legal system.
The criminal justice system includes law enforcement, prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, criminal courts, and prisons. Its function is to apprehend, prosecute, defend, sentence, and jail those involved in crimes.
I had a very unfortunate experience with the criminal justice system in reporting excuse me, my rape and the interview that went along with that afterwards with the detective. And had I not had I not had a sponsor that said, you know, are you strong enough to do this by yourself, or do you need help? And I said, I think I need help, because I don't know if I'm strong enough to do this by myself. And my therapist said the same thing, so I did it in her office. And had she not been there helping and kind of, you know, like, you're okay, it's okay, are you okay, can we take a break for a second? Had she not been there gauging with me, knowing me, I would have really just ended it and not filed the report.
Despite high levels of criminal victimization within homeless populations, researchers have consistently found the victimization of the homeless is underreported.
Unfortunately, statistics show that of all the completed sexual assaults, only 16% of all of the sexual assaults are ever reported to law enforcement. Only 2% ever have the perpetrator prosecuted, convicted, and incarcerated. So if we are thinking that healing and justice comes from the criminal justice system, unfortunately, statistics show that that is not really where a lot of victims are going to find justice and healing.
If the law enforcement would, when we do call the police, it's like, oh, they're just homeless, nobody cares about them anyway, so why bother? Well, if we had more officers, the ones that are supposed to protect them and serve, take what women of sexual abuse, domestic violence, all those things that happen to us more seriously, then we would be more quicker to come to them for help. But since that's not the case, we don't call them. We just keep that inside and we continue to go on and let it happen and let it happen and let it happen. And we continue to medicate in the process if we don't get killed.
I think sexual assaults go unreported to law enforcement because of embarrassment, shame, self-doubt, and humiliation. I think one of the primary factors that they go unreported is the feeling of not being believed.
Because assaults against homeless women often occur in the context of an illegal act and among drug users, victims may be seen by perpetrators as attractive targets. They are less likely to report the crime or to be believed or seen as worthy of services and protection by the authorities.
I think that some women have experienced not being believed by the police. I know that that has happened. We're trying to change our culture within the Portland Police Bureau so that when officers are taking a report of a sexual assault, they are approaching the victim from a place of credibility and not suspicion.
I think in the beginning it would have been really ideal to have, I don't want to say like a task force, but some, you know, like maybe an advocate, you know, like you're calling to report, you know, I need an officer because I'm going to report a rape, and or what have you, and an advocate come, you know. I mean, the officer be there because they obviously need to take the report, but it's more geared around believing you and keeping you safe and showing you, you know, like here's some stuff that we can do. I really had to utilize those resources on my own in the beginning, and I'm pretty resourceful, but I was pretty paralyzed, and I had to sit there and you know, ask a lot of questions and not be scared to ask a lot of questions.
You take a report and you go to the doctors, but they don't never find the people that violate you. I've experienced that because a couple of ladies explained their stories to me, and that sounds so scary. When they've been in situations where they got sodomized, and they just say, girl, you just got to watch your back out here. And the police doesn't do anything. So that kind of gives us are you for me or against me? I mean, if you're going to help me, I mean, I need you to find the person, to take action. But when you don't get no results, I mean, what does that leave you?
There are civil laws and civil lawyers that may be able to help sexual violence victims with their housing, safety, financial stability, privacy, employment, education, and immigration problems and needs.
The civil side is a lawsuit. That when you're talking about a lawsuit, it's a lawsuit where there are two parties involved and neither one of them is the state. It's a lawsuit between the party who files it, who's called the plaintiff, and the person who's being sued, who's also, like in a criminal case, called the defendant.
The American system of justice is one that is designed to help everyone, to give a level playing field to everyone, to make sure everyone can have a day in court. And that applies to anyone, including the victims of sexual violence. When a victim of sexual assault comes to the court, there is a tremendous opportunity to be heard. That's what courts provide, an opportunity to be heard. And that is to the victim of sexual assault as well as the person who is accused of those acts. It's an opportunity for the victim to have her story or his story heard by other people.
I once had a client, and what she really wanted to do was make a video that she wanted the defendants to watch so they could understand how their actions in the employment context, the impact it had on her life. The other thing about a civil case is that defendant is not necessarily, in a sexual assault civil case, the defendant is not necessarily the person who committed the assault. It might be the person's employer or the company for which they work. It might be the location where the sexual assault occurred. So for example, let's say you live somewhere and there are no working locks on the building or no working locks in the basement where the laundry, the washing machine and the dryer are located. And the landlord knows and has received numerous complaints, lots of complaints that this isn't safe, people are breaking in, maybe even knows that there's someone in the neighborhood who's been committing sexual assaults. And you've repeatedly told the building manager, asked them to do something about it, and nothing gets fixed. And then finally someone does break in, someone does sexually assault a tenant or someone who is, a guest of a tenant in the building. You might have a cause of action. You might be able to sue the person who committed the sexual assault, but you also might be able to successfully sue the people who own the building, who own that apartment building, because they had noticed, they knew that there was a risk, and they didn't do anything to take care of that risk.
A lot of us that were homeless or are homeless, if they had that information when clients went to court and got their sentences or whatever the case may be, get released, they have a pamphlet in their hand saying, okay, these are the places available for you to go, so you don't have to be out on the streets. I think if that was to happen, there would be less killings. I believe there would be less crime. We just need to know that these options are available to us. But if you don't know, you just keep on doing the same thing, expecting different results. And it should be like that.
I think with respect to areas of privacy, safety, housing, or financial stability, I think more than anything what I want homeless or formerly homeless survivors to know is that resources exist to help them, and that there are lawyers, there are advocates, there are the folks who have been trained at transition projects, and there's us here at the Victim Rights Law Center. And my hope is that out of the information that we are sharing, that survivors will both know about their rights and in turn will be able to help other survivors know that they have rights too.
I want anyone who is watching this video to know that the courts are here to help. The courts are a safe place where a victim of sexual assault, a victim who is homeless and feels that she has nowhere else to turn, can turn to the courts to seek protection. It can be scary. Coming into a courthouse can be a scary proposition. I would suggest that a victim of sexual assault come down and watch some proceedings, even before she files herself. Just come and watch, see what happens. Courts are scary because we're depicted as scary sometimes in movies, and judges are sometimes depicted as scary people in movies, very stern and unwilling to listen. And I want to assure the victims of sexual assault and everyone else who is going to use the court system that the courts are a safe place to be.
Because this is a new area of law, really, and a new area of service provision, sexual assault survivors who are homeless might need to be a little bit patient with us as service providers. We're learning too, and it might take us a while. We might make some mistakes, but if you can be patient with us, there's a lot that we have to learn from you and your experience.
The message that I would like to leave the women who I've had the opportunity to work with for the past 25 years is to tell you, you have given me my strength. I haven't given you yours. And I want to thank you for giving that to me.
It's hard. The work is really hard. It's really painful and you'll go through a lot. But the end result is amazing. I've come so far. I mean, the rape was horrible, you know. Somebody that I cared about did something that I never imagined would happen. But I've grown. I found that Michelle that I haven't seen in years. I have a voice again. I'm not so, you know, and I can handle things better. I've just grown so much as a person through this whole thing. And I mean, like, I'm at a place where I can see me doing something, you know, being somebody, where I've never been able to see that, you know, and that's what comes with the work. If we just go through it and utilize resources, every resource you can utilize to get help, you know, and not feeling guilty for it at all. I mean, I call my advocate all the time about crazy stuff, you know, and she's there and she doesn't care, and that's okay.
I just want to say for the women, just stay encouraged. Just stay encouraged. You know, it's not easy. It's not something that we choose. We just wake up one day and say, I'm gonna be homeless, I'm gonna deal with sexual abuse. It's not something that we choose. Life just shows up, and with the resources, we can overcome it.
I want to give them hope, because if I can make it, they can make it. You know, I survived the domestic violence, I survived the streets, because I really wanted this. You gotta, if you really want it in your gut, it can happen. You know, go seek and find at the resources, find out what's available, where you can get shelter, where you can't, and just you know, seek and find. You know, but that's my advice. But I mean, you gotta just really want it. And if you really want it in your heart, you're tired of it, it can happen for you. I'm living proof, you know?
I mean, looking back over my life and knowing how crazy life can get sometimes, and just feeling so worthless at some point, and now to feel like I am somebody and I do matter, you know, and I can make a change and a difference out here, it feels good. And I just really want people to understand that they can too. I don't care how much wrong you think you've done or how many obstacles you have working against you. You know, there's ways where there's a will, there's a way. So open up, speak up, make your needs known. Well, that's the only way you're gonna get your needs met. So, yeah, swallow that pride. It's hard to do. Oh man, sometimes you gotta do what you don't wanna do to get to where you're trying to go. And you know, for me, that the main thing was swallowing pride, you know, putting down my facade like everything is okay when it wasn't.
So I hope the next person, or whoever hears this, I hope they have a little bit of hope in their heart and know that it takes a little courage, and just a little bit of courage. I mean, miracles can happen. You just gotta really want them.
My future is bright, girl. You know, all that stuff, it didn't hold me down. It didn't hold me back. You know, right now, those very things that try to take me out is my motivation, you know, and my reason for giving back. Because I never, if I can help somebody not hurt like I did, that's what I'm going to do.
If you're a survivor of sexual violence or are currently in an unsafe situation, or if watching this video raised questions for you, you are not alone. There are different choices you can make. Some people might want medical help or to talk to a counselor. Some people might want to talk to a lawyer or make a report to the police. When you're ready for more information, find someone safe that you can talk to, like an advocate at a rape crisis center or homeless shelter, so that they can help you understand what your rights and your options are. Thank you for watching.
My name is Cindy Mosney, and I work for Northwest Pilot Project. I'm the Homeless Women's Outreach Worker. Well, I would really like the message to the women to be that we know it's not their fault. We're working at helping them to obtain more resources. We want them to know that we believe them and that we're here for them.
I'm Dennis Lundberg, and I'm the Associate Director for Homeless Youth Services at Janus Youth Programs. Not all adults are predatory. There are caring adults, supportive adults right here in the community that want to reach out and that want to help young people realize their own potential and tap into their own innate resiliency.
My name is Favor Ellis. I'm the director of SMIRC, which is the Sexual and Gender Minority Youth Resource Center. I want homeless victims of sexual violence to know that they're not alone and that there are safe and affirming places for them to receive support.
I'm Larry Turner. I'm the Behavioral Health Services Director at Transition Projects. So what I want homeless victims of sexual assault to know is that there's hope for them, that there's people willing to support them, and we want to help them get past this trauma and move on with their lives.
I'm Lori Palmer. I work for Central City Concern, the Recuperative Care Program. The message that I have for homeless victims of sexual assault is that if you are referred to Central City Concern Recuperative Care Program, that you will be in a safe environment and you have someone to advocate on your behalf to put you in a safe place.
My name is Maureen Brennan. I'm the Clinical Services Administrator within the Youth Department at Outside In. At Outside In, we really want youth to have a welcoming place. We believe that everybody deserves respect and dignity, and through that we want youth to not feel alone and that we will work with them to achieve what they want in their lives.
My name is Monica Garacki, and I'm an attorney in the Oregon Law Center's Portland office.
I'm Kashana Hill, an attorney in the Oregon Law Center's Portland office.
Valerie Colas, and I'm an attorney at the Oregon Law Center Portland office.
The Oregon Law Center provides legal help for free to low-income individuals.
If you've been sexually assaulted or harassed where you live or where you work, the Oregon Law Center can help.
I'm Mike Reese. I'm the Chief of Police for the Portland Police Bureau. I'd like victims of sexual assault to know that it's safe to report their crime and that we, at the Police Bureau, we take it very seriously. It's a tragic crime, and too many of our, particularly the women living on the streets of Portland, are victims of sexual assault.
My name is Monica Weitzel. I'm a direct service advocate at Portland Women's Crisis Line, and I specialize in working with homeless survivors. I want survivors to know that I believe them. What happened wasn't their fault and that they deserve support, and I hope that they'll feel comfortable connecting with PWCL to receive some of that support.
My name is Ladina Maddox. I'm a housing case manager and I work at Transition Projects. I want homeless victims of sexual violence to know and to understand that they're not alone and that we're available, the staff at Transition Projects and a lot of different community advocates are available to support them and that we want to support them. If I'm working with someone who's been sexually assaulted, it's my job to try and connect her to whatever resource she wants to connect to, and I'll do my best to do that.